Okay, the first question will come from me until the crowd is preparing to their own questions. How do you manage to bring a product fast from idea to the market? What's essential to be able to do it?
So I think what is essential to do it is, first and foremost, understand what you're actually building. I've seen many product deliveries fail because there was simply no solid understanding about what are we actually solving for. So I think that is important. I think it's very much a mindset perspective. We can talk about technology, but I very much think it's the drive, it's passion. It's about you willing to achieve something, you willing to deliver value to a customer. I think that's ultimately most important. The rest are some technical challenges that you might run into. You will succeed with kind of the right passion, and if you don't try to overthink things. You need to be able and willing to live with the unknown. Many questions you have your own answers to, and yet you need to move on. You can't sit still, you can't wait until you know the unknown. It's all about iteration, it's about just trying.
Sorry, hi, I'm Mihai. I suspect that at the beginning you guys had some tough times and it wasn't easy. What motivated you and what made you, move forward and...
So I was not there in the beginning, to be very honest. I only joined 5 years in the company, so it was already a bit bigger. And these days, I can at least answer you what motivates me. I am motivated by solving problems. The bigger, the better. And I like problems that have impact. Thank you.
So I guess during these 15 years you went through loads of change and infrastructurally and organizationally. How many times, which were the organizational patterns that you tried out in sense of how much autonomy did you give the teams? Because you mentioned in your talk that everybody's very client-facing and you're client-driven, and it's relevant for the team to take action and produce client value. And in this sense, how much autonomy did you give them? Or how did this change throughout the years? Which were good things you tried out where you said okay, you are fully in charge and you decide in your team that will benefit the whole company, or yeah.
So what I can tell you is the following. We started off as a fairly top-heavy company. We had 3 founders that had no engineering background, that had no appreciation for technology. But they were great businessmen. They saw an opportunity. So in the beginning, they were driving requirements down to the engineering teams. And for a while, that worked actually extremely well. We were a small team. Everyone knows what to do. So that worked extremely well. It was actually until we started to kind of add layers in between that things started to break down. We, for a very long time, were more project-focused than product-focused. So we wanted to deliver this, and then we would just scrape a lot of people together and have them deliver against it. So there was no long-lived teams. There was definitely no autonomy whatsoever. There was, of course, autonomy to convert when I talk about engineering, I often talk about from problem to solution and from solution to implementation. There was some autonomy to go from a solution to an implementation, but there was no autonomy whatsoever to actually convert the problem to a solution. That is something that has evolved over time. I would say Klarna as a company has never been as autonomous as it is today, which is kind of the opposite path that most companies have taken. Then I think it's also important to say that there is no golden rule. Ultimately, how autonomous a team should be really comes down to the prerequisites. Some teams, they have extremely low dependencies, they can be super, super autonomous. Other teams, they are dependent on external vendors or internal systems that are more complex, and there is a bit more need for coordination. So often people try to implement kind of this single silver bullet and force everyone into that process. I think common sense is probably mankind's biggest gift and highly unused, and that's what we try to do. So we really take these case-by-case decisions, and our aim is to have teams as autonomous as possible, but there are good reasons that we sometimes have to dial a bit back. And this is constant iteration. We constantly try. So sometimes we give a bit too much, sometimes we take a bit back. It's all about, even when you organize organizations or companies, it's about iteration. It's like software development. Okay?
Hello, I'm Christina and I'm also working with the payment integration teams. We are actually working for Nestlé and we are doing the custom development to handle the payments, and one of the pain points, and I wanted to ask your opinion on that, is the integration with different payment providers, Multibank, Alipay, all these, well, large number of payment providers that are actually imposing some dependencies. So you cannot develop something because the payment provider maybe does not support it, or it's SOAP instead of REST, or whatever reason. So I guess you must be facing something similar because you need to integrate with a lot of payment providers. And how do you handle that to increase the speed of the delivery?
So it's something that took us a while. Like we started off by just, oh, we need to integrate this payment, we'll do it. And the second comes by and the third comes by. And I think that is the best way of doing it. But over time, you start to identify common patterns. And if you're in the business of aggregating, which in essence, payments business very much is, and you have enough experience, you can actually build platforms with the sole purpose of integrating faster. So by choosing the right decouplings between your core system and kind of putting the right business logic that is payment specific outside of the core systems, you can go much faster. But you first need to kind of understand the common denominator in payments. And that is something that just simply takes time. It's a result of how these payment methods work and the use case that you want to solve for. But in today's Klarna world, we have something that we call an integration layer, which is a piece of software that enables us to connect to external payment. It's extremely simple and kind of abstracting that complexity away from our core systems. And that enables us to go much faster than we ever did before.
Okay, we'll take one from here. How do you sell the idea of autonomous teams with no estimates to a conventional board of directors?
It's a good question. And maybe I want to clarify a few things before I answer the question. Like, our teams are super autonomous and we try not to do estimations. Of course, sometimes we have to do estimations. If there is a big customer asking us when can this feature go live, we will do a quick and dirty estimate. That's perfectly fine. But we don't believe in constant pattern of doing estimations. How do you sell to your board? Reference companies that don't do it and that are successful, and try to explain them the value of it. We work with large retailers, and I will not disclose the name, but one of the largest retailers that we work with, they kind of have the opposite of what we do. And for me, it hurts me to see. I see talented engineers, I see talented product managers, and they waste probably 30 to 40% of their time on the estimation process. The development is outsourced, and there's nothing wrong with outsourcing. But the outsourcing party has to guarantee and do a fixed price agreement. So that means that they will want to have a lot of detailed requirements in order for them to deliver a fixed price agreement. So this whole process of kind of estimating, scoping, documenting requirements, converting that into a work order that is reliable enough to actually be financially liable for, is 30-40% of the entire engineering and product team's day-to-day time. If you can use that time to build features, I think you can go much faster. I think it's these type of examples that you need to raise with the board. And it's uncomfortable for them because a board or a management team in most cases chooses predictability over speed. Not consciously, but they want to have a sense of control. But ultimately, if they really trust the people in the teams and you can showcase what it means, you can get it done. And again, I repeat myself, it's iteration. Start doing it with 2 or 3 teams. Show how it increases the output. And then you have a great example to bring back to the management team or the board. And you have a much better chance of actually going for a more broad adoption.
In managing and getting teams to be autonomous, do you at least have something like prioritizing features, like new features? And how do the autonomous teams work with the product side?
So we definitely prioritize features. And this is a very open model. So if a team owns a problem space, we expect the team to know best what their customer needs. And we expect the team to prioritize what delivers most value. Now, of course, sometimes there are overarching priorities. So I can go to a team and have a discussion about their priorities, and I can try to convince them and explain them, like, hey, I understand that this is the most important from your perspective, but listen, we have this ongoing project here. I would like you to consider prioritizing this. So it's a debate. It's up for discussion, but not top-down, you shall prioritize this. It is for me, as a manager, it's my responsibility to try to convince and make that team to understand why the thing that I want to get done is important. And I can do that. Anyone in the company can do that. This is how also teams get things prioritized with each other. If I have a dependency on another team and I want them to prioritize it, then it's for me to kind of convince them how important that feature is for my team and what the company's value is. But again, this comes down to common sense. And then your second question was how we work with the product.
Yeah.
So I think
They are driving the needs. They are driving team's efforts, or they are just getting input from a product guy or team.
so most important is that the product person sits in the team. So the biggest flaw that people make is product versus engineering, product versus commercial. Like there is so much energy in companies wasted on these silly games. Like ultimately, if you're customer obsessed, I don't want my engineers to identify themselves with, I'm an engineer. I want them to identify themselves with the team and the problem space. And they should work in a team with all of the competencies that they need, and they should really spend their time on focusing on the customers and not, am I a product manager, am I a designer? I don't care who comes up with the solution, whether it's the product manager, the designer, or the engineer. We have different skills, and we need all of these skills to deliver a valuable product, and there is no product versus engineering. There is a team and a customer.
Okay, one from here. How do you argue to stakeholders when a specific feature will be ready? You are mentioning about no planning roadmaps.
Yeah. So what do we mean with argue? I don't really fully understand how arguing is mean, but like one of the challenges of this model is that it comes across as extremely chaotic. If we look at our commercial people, they have no visibility on which feature will go live when. And that's uncomfortable and sometimes challenging. And if they want to understand when certain products go live, they might have to talk to 20 teams. And I completely agree, this is suboptimal. But the only way of solving it is going back to these massive overarching roadmaps, which in my opinion creates more problems than solutions. So it is a conscious choice that we have made. And this model is not perfect. But we feel that for us it is the right trade-off. So the thing that we struggle most with is communication around product releases. If you have 200 teams delivering autonomously, try to make sense out of it. It's not always easy. And there are things that you can do, having product teams, having them good websites, having them articulate their own roadmaps. There are things that you can do, but definitely it is one of the weaker links in this model. It's not all perfect.
Hi, I'm Andre. The autonomous teams concept is at the same time very scary, but also very awesome, and may I say also bold, considering that you're building a banking product. So my question is, how do you find, filter, and also keep the right people that give you, that are part of the organization, that adhere to the culture, and that deliver, and also potentially a follow-up on this, given the whole autonomous process where they develop and push things to production? Can you share some, maybe even funny stories when screw-ups ended up in production?
So when we recruit people, whether they are engineers or product managers, analysts, data scientists, or designers, most companies have the tendency to focus 90% of recruitment efforts on skills. And in the best of worlds, 10% on attitudes. I would say we probably look at 50-50. Skills are important, but you can develop skills. Developing attitude, I don't really believe in it. So in such a model, egos don't work. People that are not really customer obsessed don't work. So this model doesn't work for everyone. If you want to build an empire, this model is very much not right. So it comes down to finding the right people that can work in such an environment. And to be frank, we reject many extremely skilled engineers, not because they are not great coders, but simply we don't believe that they fit in our teams. And then their output doesn't outweigh their lack of customer understanding. And then you just need to be very principled and say, no, sorry, it doesn't work for us. And it's also important here that you, within teams, create an environment where you are willing to let go of people that don't fit from an attitude perspective. And I'm not saying everything is perfect at Klarna, don't get me wrong. We struggle, we learn, we improve. But I would say attitude is crucial to get this right. So we don't believe in remote work. There was a lot of debates. You saw maybe some interesting posts from companies like Stripe. For a team to work together, especially on more kind of UI UX products, we think that on-site work is best. So yes, we are flexible, and if you go to the dentist, work the rest from home, but we don't believe in a model where we have completely virtual teams that don't have any face time. Like, nothing beats a whiteboarding session. Nothing beats the ability to do some user testing on the street with the team, and yeah, that requires people to sit close together. At least that's what we believe in.
So just wanted to get back to your part of the autonomous team and the product owners being part of the teams, right? Do the product owners have transparency into what the other teams are doing, so there are no conflicts? You know, when you don't know what the product roadmap is, and then everyone's working their own shell, do you have those conflicts?
So we basically cluster groups of teams in a slightly larger organization, typically somewhere between 8 and 16 teams. And within these teams, of course, there is a constant dialogue between the product managers. And if there are dependencies, of course, you can't build, like, dependencies are unavoidable. It's all about knowing when you need a dependency, when it's the right thing to do, and when not. So yes, we have a ton of dependencies between teams, but we try to at least group these teams together, put them next to each other to kind of enhance communication. But yes, definitely, I would personally say that being a successful product manager means you have excellent communication skills, and to a certain degree even know a bit how to hustle, because that's how you get things done. So that's definitely an important skill to have.
Well, from here, what would be your tactics to understand your customers at scale?
So I think, again, at scale, it's about still breaking it down to teams that can identify themselves with a customer. Because as long as you can identify your customer, you can ask your customer questions, and you can study the behavior on how they use your product through data. I think you have all the tools you need in order to understand your customers. So how you do it at scale is stick to the model, give teams autonomy, and force teams to consciously identify themselves. Who are your customers? What is the value that you're creating? How are you helping them? And let them constantly ask themselves, what value have we created for our customers in the last month? So it is the mechanics of almost enforcing customer obsession by making this an ingrained part of the day-to-day routine within a team.
What would you say to a good programmer? Should he or she stay within a big company for at least several years until joining a startup, or would it be better to go the other way around?
I don't think there is a single answer there. I think it depends on preference. I actually do think it's valuable to do both. So I've seen people, if you want to learn extremely fast, startups are great because you get often too much responsibility. And I see that in large companies, people's careers are often hindered by the fact that the growth is slow. If a company grows slow, there is little positions being created. So you're not going to be pushed to your edge. So that's the advantage of a startup. But the advantage of a large corporate organization is that you get to solve problems at scale. And I think both of these elements are crucial for you to be really successful. I don't really think that the order in which you acquire these experiences is that important. As long as you recognize what is there to learn from me at a startup, what is there to learn from me at a larger organization, and again, mixing them is helpful.
Okay, one more question.
Hi, I'm Alex. I was wondering, how do you decide which teams to scale up or down?
It's all about measuring the impact that they have to the business. So if we see that a team is delivering a tremendous amount of impact to the business, and often that can be measured in anything of like revenue or volume or customer satisfaction or cost reductions or monthly active users, there's a whole bunch of KPIs that we have. If you see that teams are succeeding and overachieving these KPIs, and these teams have the feeling that they can go even faster if they have more resources, give them more resources. But also there, I think there is often more resources is the simple answer. The real answer is how can we work even more effective? Because engineering doesn't scale, no organization scales. So I think the easy way is to just give it another engineer. The more important way is how can we utilize our time even better. But yeah, again, ultimately, success factors for us is like if you hit your KPIs and you feel you can go faster by having more resources, then we're happy to discuss that. It's the same. If we see that there is no customer value being created, and we don't have the feeling that we can create that in the near future either, you need to close down the team. And to be very frank there, it doesn't mean that the team has been not successful. Like there are 1,000 reasons why you can fail. If the team has given everything that they had, and they did their utmost, to me it's still a very successful team. But there are so many factors that might make you fail. There is dependencies on external companies, there are regulatory dependencies. As long as they have iterated fast, the team has done a good job and we move on to the next problem space. There's enough problems to solve.
One more question?
One more question from me. So, since you are focusing so much on teams, do you have any special programs to increase the team's efficiency? Like, for example, when someone new joins the team, you pass through all those stages, norming, forming, performing, and all the science behind how teams work. Do you have anything specific that you are doing to cultivate the teams?
So yes, we have, but again, this is not very formalized. For the following reasons, like teams in Klarna, they are so diverse. A team that maybe consists more of commercial and marketing people is hugely different than a team that is with a designer and a product manager that has kind of a full stack customer-facing product versus a team that builds back-end solutions to move money across the world. So I don't think that there is a silver bullet, a recipe for success to embed people. I think the team knows best on how to onboard an employee fast. The challenge is that you need to make the team responsible for that. Because if you give them a blueprint, a template, this is how you onboard the people, they will just execute and sit back and relax. I think it's more important that you tell the team, like, hey, you're going to get this new person. And in order for you to be successful, it is important that you onboard that person fast as possible. And you know best what is important to train them with. So that's kind of how we do the team specifics. And of course, there are more standardized things within the company that we want our employees to be aware of and that we will onboard them on a general level. But on a problem space level, we leave it to the team. They know best.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your questions.
Thank you.